Hi guys, Friday Plays here and welcome back to another YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, this is not going to be like fixture reaction TV, it will be a little bit, but today we are going to be doing, we're going to be going over every AFL stadium to host a game in 2022. Alright guys, now there's a fair few AFL stadiums that are fixtured in to host at least one game in 2022. And today we're going to be going over, which are those stadiums, and hopefully they all still continue to at least host one game in 2022. Now, of course, you're going to see some big ones in here. MCG, Marvel Stadium, Gabba, Adelaide Oval, Optus Stadium, SCG, Metcon a little bit, Giants Stadium a little bit, Monaco Oval hosts a fair few games. So, yeah, there's a fair few still. There's plenty of stadiums hosting games in 2022, and then there's some more quieter stadiums like Core Stadium, UTAS, Blunston Arena, and all that. Now, of course, we're going to be starting off with the MCG. We're not going to be predicting every game. I'm just going to be taking a look through. This is not going to be by any means detailed or anything, but yeah, we're just going to have a little bit of a scroll through. So the MCG, they got Melbourne Dogs, Carlton, Richmond, Geelong, Essendon, Hawthorn North, all in the first round. In the second round, they host Collingwood, Adelaide, and Richmond GWS. That's it for the second round. Third round, it is Melbourne, Essendon, Collingwood, and Geelong, Carlton and Hawthorn. Then the next round, it hosts Richmond, Western Bulldogs, Hawthorn, St Kilda. That's it. So no Sunday game. Oh yeah, there is a Sunday game. This is quite hard to keep track of. And look, I'm not really going to say, but like, yeah, you've got Melbourne, GWS, Carlton, Port Adelaide, Hawthorn, Geelong, Richmond, Melbourne, Essendon, Collingwood, Melbourne, Hawthorn, Collingwood, Gold Coast, Richmond, Collingwood, Melbourne, St Kilda, Hawthorn, Richmond, and now date and times to be confirmed. So we don't know. We know that it's at the MCG, but we don't know when. Richmond, Essendon, Collingwood, Carlton, Melbourne, Fremantle, Hawthorn, Collingwood, Melbourne, Sydney, Collingwood, Melbourne, Essendon, Carlton, Richmond, Port Adelaide, Richmond, Carlton, Collingwood, GWS, Melbourne, Richmond, Melbourne, Brisbane, Geelong, Richmond, Melbourne, Brisbane, Essendon, Sydney, Richmond, West Coast, Collingwood, North Melbourne, Carlton, Geelong, Hawthorn, West Coast, Collingwood, Essendon, Collingwood, Port Adelaide, Richmond, Brisbane, Melbourne, Collingwood, Melbourne, Carlton, Richmond, Hawthorn, Collingwood, Carlton, and Essendon, Richmond. That was a mouthful. That's what we have at the MCG. Now, we want to try and fly through these pretty quick. I don't want this to drag out for too long, of course. But yeah. That's the games that are hosted at the MCG. So next up, we're going to go to Marvel Stadium. We're going to go down a little bit of a list. So we have St Kilda, Collingwood, Western Bulldogs, Carlton, Essendon, Brisbane, North Melbourne, West Coast, Western Bulldogs, Sydney, 6:50 on a Thursday, interesting. St Kilda, Richmond, Collingwood, West Coast, interesting at Marvel as well. That'll be interesting. Essendon, Adelaide, North Melbourne, Western Bulldogs, St Kilda, Gold Coast, Essendon, Fremantle, Carlton, North Melbourne, Western Bulldogs, Essendon, Hawthorn, Carlton, Adelaide, Collingwood, Western Bulldogs, St Kilda, Geelong, and now we are heading into the date and times to be confirmed. Carlton, Sydney, North Melbourne, Melbourne, St Kilda, North Melbourne, Western Bulldogs, Geelong, North Melbourne, GWS, St Kilda, Essendon, Carlton, Fremantle, Western Bulldogs, Hawthorn, Carlton, St Kilda, Hawthorn, Adelaide, St Kilda, Fremantle, Essendon, Gold Coast, North Melbourne, Richmond, Western Bulldogs, St Kilda, Carlton, GWS, Richmond, Fremantle, Western Bulldogs, Melbourne, Essendon, North Melbourne, St Kilda, Hawthorn, North Melbourne, Sydney, Western Bulldogs, Fremantle, Essendon, Port Adelaide, St Kilda, Brisbane, Western Bulldogs, GWS, North Melbourne, Gold Coast, and St Kilda, Sydney. This gets quite to be a mouthful after some time as well. Those are all the games at Marvel Stadium. Now, of course, MCG, Marvel Stadium getting probably around the same. I'm probably not going to go and count them all up because there's a lot here. And now we're going to be heading on to a core stadium. So, of course, for a core stadium, it is just a one game. Sydney Derby, GWS Sydney in round 1, 4:40. Very interesting time for that Sydney Derby. It's kind of positioned at a Saturday night, I think, Saturday twilight. But look, we've still got a massive list of stadiums to go on. So now we're going to move over to the Gabba, which this is the other Saturday night game in round 1740 of the Gabba. Now, let's get to it. So, Brisbane, Port Adelaide, Brisbane, North Melbourne, Brisbane, Collingwood, Brisbane, West Coast. Now to the date and time to be confirmed. Brisbane, GWS, Brisbane, St Kilda, Brisbane, Western Bulldogs, Brisbane, Essendon, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Brisbane, Carlton, Brisbane, Melbourne. And you'd be expecting Brisbane to win most of their games up there, considering that they've really built a fortress up at the Gabba, Brisbane. So, yeah, now to Adelaide Oval. Adelaide and Port Adelaide's home grounds. There's going to be a fair lot of games here. Same with Optus Stadium, as it's a shared ground. So, let's get to it. Adelaide Fremantle, Port Adelaide Hawthorn, Adelaide Port Adelaide Melbourne, Adelaide Richmond, Port Adelaide West Coast, Adelaide GWS. Ooh, Friday, 7 o'clock, exactly, sharp 7 o'clock. Interesting times that they've put up here. Very interesting, not the normal time games you'd see. Port Adelaide Western Bulldogs, Adelaide Brisbane, now to date and time to be confirmed. Adelaide St Kilda, Port Adelaide Essendon, Adelaide West Coast, Port Adelaide Sydney, Port Adelaide Gold Coast, Adelaide Melbourne, Port Adelaide GWS, Adelaide Collingwood, Port Adelaide Geelong, Adelaide Carlton, Port Adelaide Richmond, Adelaide North Melbourne, Port Adelaide Adelaide. So those are the games at the Adelaide Oval. And of course, we're only a portion of the way done. Really, we've still got so many more stadiums to go. So, of course, we're going to get a little bit of a wriggle on now, but these, of course, don't host too many games. Optus Stadium, another major one, though. So, West Coast, Gold Coast, Fremantle, St Kilda, West Coast, Fremantle, Fremantle, GWS, West Coast, Sydney, Fremantle, Carlton, West Coast, Richmond, Fremantle, North Melbourne, West Coast, Melbourne. And then the date and time to be confirmed. Fremantle, Collingwood, West Coast, Western Bulldogs, Fremantle, Brisbane, Fremantle, Hawthorn, West Coast, Geelong, West Coast, Essendon, Fremantle, Port Adelaide, West Coast, Carlton, Fremantle, Sydney, West Coast, St Kilda, Fremantle, Melbourne, West Coast, Adelaide, and Fremantle, West Coast. So those are the games at Optus Stadium, of course. We're starting to actually fly through this now. Of course, MCG, Marvel Stadium definitely are the longer ones. Now we're into SCG. The stadiums that aren't shared as much anymore. Just a Sydney home ground, this one. So, all Sydney games. Sydney Geelong, Sydney North Melbourne, Sydney Brisbane, Sydney Gold Coast, Sydney Essendon, now to date and time to be confirmed, Sydney Richmond, Sydney St Kilda, Sydney Western Bulldogs, Sydney Adelaide, Sydney GWS, and Sydney Collingwood. Now, those are the games at the SCG. We're starting to absolutely fly through these stadiums, tear them apart now. We have got Metcon Stadium. Still a fair few to go, but the other ones don't host too many games. So the next one that we've got, Metcon Stadium, Gold Coast home ground, Gold Coast Melbourne, Gold Coast Carlton, Gold Coast Brisbane, Gold Coast Fremantle. How many games is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow. 4 in their first 10. 4 in their first 9. And then we've got Gold Coast Adelaide, Gold Coast Collingwood, Gold Coast Richmond, Gold Coast West Coast, and Gold Coast Geelong. So that's at Metcon Stadium. I don't know. Gold Coast aren't playing a lot of games there. I don't know where else they are going to be. Oh yeah, they play a couple up in Darwin, I believe. That's why they have a lack of their home games. Giant Stadium, I think that's hosting a couple of games. It's like a fair few. GWS Gold Coast, GWS Carlton. Now to the date and times to be confirmed. GWS West Coast, GWS Western Bulldogs, GWS Hawthorn, and GWS Essendon. So there's a fair few games at Giant Stadium. Of course, Giant Stadium normally does host a fair few games, as it is, well, the Giants' home ground. And they've also got Manuka Oval. So, you know what? It's GWS, so let's just keep going with it. GWS St Kilda, GWS Geelong, now to the date and time to be confirmed. GWS Brisbane, GWS Fremantle. So that's Manuka. Now we're going to be heading back up to GMHBA Stadium, which is Geelong's probably semi-home ground, you could probably say. It is their, real home ground, but, they don't play a lot of games here, so it's probably their semi. It's their real home ground, but they don't play a lot of games there. They play a fair few, but, not as much as MCG or anything like that. But they do still play at the MCG as an away team as well. Geelong, Brisbane, Geelong Fremantle, now to date times to be confirmed. Geelong Port Adelaide, Geelong Adelaide, Geelong North Melbourne, Geelong Melbourne, Geelong Western Bulldogs, Geelong St Kilda, Geelong West Coast. So they're playing a fair few games down there this year. Of course, it's going to be interesting seeing both the Adelaide teams going down to GMHB. I don't remember them teams going down there, at least in the last couple of years anyway. Now we're heading on to Mars Stadium. Again, Western Bulldogs actually only playing 2 games there. Western Bulldogs Adelaide and Western Bulldogs Gold Coast. So they'll be happy with their trip to Mars, of course, Western Bulldogs, because they've got 2 not very good teams, so they should be able to smash them down there in Adelaide and Gold Coast. Now we've got the Tasmanian Stadiums to go, and then Cairns, and then Darwin, Alice Springs, that place up there. So we've got North Melbourne, Geelong, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide, North Melbourne, Adelaide, North Melbourne, Hawthorn at Blunston Arena. Again, both the Adelaide teams taking a trip down to Tassie. Interesting stuff. And then you've got Geelong and Hawthorn, which also have like alternative home grounds as well. So interesting there for North at Blunston. Now, of course, the other team that has a Tasmanian home ground, Hawthorn. I was about to say Tasmania, Sydney. No, Hawthorn, Sydney. 12 o'clock. Again, some very interesting timed games in 2022. The fixtures have been interestingly timed. Hawthorn, Brisbane, Hawthorn, Gold Coast, Hawthorn, Western Bulldogs are the other teams, apart from Sydney, heading down to UTAS. Now, Kazali's TIO and TIO. So, that's what we've got left. The only game at Kazali's Stadium is St Kilda, Port Adelaide, a Saturday nighter. That's it for Kazali's Stadium. Now we are moving on to the final 2, TIO Stadium and TIO Traeger Park. So yes, I was right. Gold Coast do have 2 games up there. Of course, the first one against Hawthorn and the second one against North Melbourne in date and times to be confirmed. And now the final one of this video, TIO Traeger Park. That is when Melbourne take Port Adelaide up to the NT. Port Adelaide gone plenty of places in 2022. Up to TIO Traeger Park in the Northern Territory. So that's what we've got. That's the stadiums that are hosting games. Now, some of the more interesting ones seem to be a core stadium hosting just a 1 game. Definitely Manuka Oval hosting some more games this year is a good thing. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 games for Manuka Oval. I think it normally only hosts a couple. So that's nice to see. And they're all spread out across the season at Manuka as well. Normally it's kind of, I think it was a bit of a rush to the start. Now, Kazali Stadium only getting the 1 game, of course, this year. And then TIO Stadium hosting 2. And then TIO Traeger Park. Again, I find it really nice that it goes up to the Northern Territory and up to Cairns. And then, of course, I like how it goes down to Tassie, of course. The UTAS Stadium for the Hawthorn Hawks and Blunston Arena for North Melbourne. I like that as well. I like the idea of making, even though not every place in Australia may have a football team, but you have a football ground that can play football games on it. So that's really nice. And it's really nice to see these games going across to everywhere you could go in Australia, having SA, WA, Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, Tasmania, and the Northern Territory, of course. Really nice. Now, you guys can let me know which ground is your favourite. Which games at your ground? Should you have more games? Should you have less games at your ground? You guys let me know. Is there any stadiums missing in this list that should be hosting a game? Or is there any that shouldn't be in here? Like, maybe you guys think a core stadium shouldn't have a game this year. You guys can let me know that in the comment section down below. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a like as well. But yeah, I do hope you guys did enjoy this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you guys will never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching. So bye guys, Fireplays out.